Today I'm going to look at how resource management and streaming is done with Zio. Zio is a newer library, and a lot of things are just easier in it. It's just easier to program in Zio than CATS. Resource management turns out to be very similar. So the code, when you compare the code, it's really quite similar. So let's just look at this file. That looks a lot like CATS. And then I looked at streaming as a use case when you would have to access certain resources like a file and then stream out of that file. I think that's much simpler in Zio. Let's look at this example because I think it's interesting. It's just interesting how simple the whole thing is. So first of all, you set up the task similarly to the managed task similarly to how you would do in CATS. You create a task. This is what you want to do to make sure that this happens, and then if there's an error, or not just when there's an error, but regardless what happens, it cleans up like this after the resource is no longer needed. So program is just using this managed resource. And so this is very similar to the example I created for the CATS application. And it's just using this managed resource, and then it prints out the lines from it. Now, the reason I looked at the streaming API, the reason I looked at streaming as a use case is because I just wanted to see how resource management happens in the context of a very specific use case. And it just could not happen more easily because the whole thing happens underneath the scenes. Resource management is handled by the streaming API itself underneath the scenes or behind the scenes. And basically you don't have to do anything. So you just set up your Z-Sync. You set up your Z-Stream to read the data. You set up your Z-Sync. And you combine them together. Those of you who are familiar with Akka probably recognize this pattern. First, you read the stream, which is your reader, right? The Z-Stream. Then you do your processing, and then you run it into a sync. That's a lot like what you do in Akka streams, where you have a sync, a flow, and a sync and a processing in the middle, and a sync, and you put together a flow like that, and then you run it, and that's what brings the stream live. That's what materializes. That's the word they use there. So this is very similar. When I saw the patterns I was using, I just could not help but think that I'm in Akka streams all over again. So this is very simple to implement, and I think that's one of the things I noticed, by the way, when I looked at this code and looked at the CAT code in general. Zio has less layers. It is just it's often easier to figure out what those layers should be, whereas CATS seems to be based first strictly on the Red Book, and the Red Book is very theoretical and abstract. So I think the difference between the two is this is a more mature library. It's newer and more practical to use. Let's try to run this. Okay, so this is just going to demonstrate a managed resource. Let's see. I will run this. And it should print out my file, and it prints out closing a file. I I'm saying this here so we know that the file is closed after the processing, because it's the whole point of resource management, right? And so that showed resource management, and now let's use this in a streaming application. So a couple of things about Zayo streaming. You initiate the streaming by setting up a Z-Stream. You pipe into a Z-Sync, and then the other thing is the processing in this case just converts to uppercase. That's our processing, and then both Z-Stream from file and Z-Sync from file manage their respective file resources, ensuring they are properly opened and closed. The use of Z-managed is implicit in these constructs. So this is demonstrating the use of Z-managed. It's just not visible to us because it's handlers underneath. Like every effectful application, what you do is you have to have a runner, and that runner is here at the end, right? When you call this run method, what you end up doing is by executing it like this, what you end up doing it is basically materializing the entire app and create one big effect. So let's run this now. Okay, pick the correct module. So that runs as well. It's just gonna print out the number of bytes, right? Because that's really the only thing I asked it to do. But if we look, our output is there and converted to all uppercase. Now, the other thing is I also created a test file. The purpose of the test file is mainly just so you guys can easily cut and paste and create your own tests. So this provides a good starting point. In case you want to incorporate this into your application, you just copy and paste the test, and that gets you started. Let's see, let's make sure this runs as well. So if I had to vote between Zayo and Cats, I would vote Zayo. I have Cats experience mostly. I'm relatively new to Zayo, and I'm just figuring out all the idiosyncrasies. And I just have to say that I like Zayo a lot. It's just cleaner. It seems to be more easily and immediately usable. Although Cats is great too, so I don't wanna say bad things about it. Thanks for listening. You guys have a good day. Bye bye.